So they say love comes when you least expect it. But a relationship can only happen when you consciously enter into it. And the unfortunate reality is that sometimes the experience of love does not line up with it being time for a relationship. And what this leads to is this whole idea of right guy, wrong time. Now, some of you out there do not believe in it. I've seen tons of comments where women and even men, but mainly women, will say, well, if it's not the right time, then they possibly cannot be the right person. But I completely disagree. And I'm going to break this whole thing down to you today because we've got to understand or get out of this mindset because it is causing a disruption for a lot of people. And not only the path they need to take, but the process they need to undergo, as well as the relationship they truly belong in. So let me give you a quick story. There were two people, a man and a woman, and they met in college, all right? And they experienced this amazing connection, unlike anything they've experienced with anyone else, okay? They knew deep inside, like, this is the person. They both felt this way about each other. However, during this time, this woman was trying to prepare for medical school. And her plans of where she wanted to go for school and where she wanted to go after college was taking her in one direction. And the plans the man had for his career, I honestly can't remember the specific career at the moment, but his career was taking him into another direction in a completely different city. Yet, knowing that this would come, or this issue would come about, they didn't want to worry about that right now. They wanted to indulge in this love, this connection they were experiencing, and they figured they could work this out. And I think there was a little bit on both sides where they figured, well, you know what, I can get her to be able to move to my city. Maybe we can find a school in my city. And to her, it's, well, I can get him to do this. But they weren't fully being clear about this. However, the inevitableness of this time coming where they're going to have to address this issue always kind of created this tension in the relationship, underlying. On top of the fact that, listen, these were young, they were young, there was still some growing to do as individuals. And being that this was their first experience of this magnitude of love, a lot of people aren't as ready, or they don't understand all that requires to manage something like this and to nurture it and make it successful. All of that to say, there were mistakes made. There were a lot of missteps, all right? Eventually, the combination of the missteps already created some problems. And then that boiled into, okay, well, now it's time to decide where we're going to go. And she was staunch on, well, I have to go here and I got to do it this way, and he wanted to do it that way. And it led to breaking up. Now, some people may look at that and say, well, no, that means he just wasn't for her or she wasn't for him. But not necessarily. These two people had the biggest foundational piece you need, a connection. But let's start to break down what can create a situation where it's right person, wrong time. And I know you're already thinking, why would the right person come at the wrong time? I have an explanation for that, especially from a spiritual perspective. But let's go through some of the reasons why this dynamic occurs. So one of the things you can pick up from in that story, all right, and I wish I had more details for you, but one of the things you can pick up from that story is lack of maturity. All right. We have to understand that, unfortunately, and let me add to this, lack of maturity and lack of healthy guidance. So a lot of people have not learned not just how to handle love, not just how to handle relationships, how to handle people, how to handle their own emotions, all right? How to navigate through all of that. And what you have to understand is when you're dealing with the quote unquote right person, so this individual you have a connection with, they're going to pull things out of you in a way that no one else does. So if you struggle with being secure, well, you're probably going to find yourself more insecure when you're dealing with this individual. Not because they're doing things to create insecurity. It's because this level of vulnerability, when you are not at a healthy place yet, can create fear, can create doubt. Not to mention, and those I said, maturity and healthy guidance, not to mention that because other people around you have experienced so many failed relationships, they typically pour in more negative perspective or unhealthy perspective. All right. So it's almost like, for example, if you as a woman are dealing with this man, and again, because you're so into him, now the little things he does or doesn't do bothers you at a level that it wouldn't have bothered you with the next guy. So for example, all right, if it's a guy you're just dating and you like, right, and you don't hear from him throughout the day, that might piss you off depending on what kind of woman you are. But you also it won't hurt you the same way the guy that you're really into, how he may, lack, or he may miss that phone call or whatever, and that will bother you more, or will actually cause you to be like, well, is he with somebody else? You'll start to, it's going to be harder to handle and manage. Okay. And then what happens is, if you have the wrong influences, they can then make it worse. Oh, well, you know how these men are, girl. He probably doing this and that, right? Well, I know my last guy, I was into him and he still did. They start, poking the bear of fear, of questioning if he's being faithful, all these different things. And so because of this lack of maturity, because of this unhealthy guidance, and also because so many individuals have not either seen healthy relationships or again have been passed down truly healthy information, they end up mishandling a lot of different scenarios in these relationships, in these situations I'm talking about where it's the right person, but it may be the wrong time. And that lack of maturity, which can happen on both sides, the man or the woman, and I would argue it typically happens on both sides, is going to derail things. All right. So that's one huge common issue. A second common issue that can create this right person, wrong time is a lack of stability. All right. Now, this is not to say that two people who are still learning themselves, growing, can't succeed. But I think you have to be very mindful of the environments that typically those people are in that allows for a higher chance of success versus others. What I mean by that is this. If you have a man and a woman, and let's right now just go with the idea of they're still young. Even though this right person, wrong time can happen at any age. Let's just get that straight. But let's just say you're still young. You haven't gotten stable either side, right? But if you guys have strong family structure behind you that's going to help you out, you know what I'm saying, that's going to look out for you guys, then those two people have a more of a cushion to grow together and get it together, all right? They have a support system that allows them to get over this hump of a lack of stability. If there is no strong support system, and again, no healthy guidance, because listen, there's going to be frustrating moments. There's going to be times where you might think like, man, can I really do this? All right. And and to paint more of a picture, let's say you're both broke. All right. You're both broke. You're both trying to get to a certain place, but you guys deeply love each other. But let's be real, to be able to have a committed romantic relationship, to be able to move on to marriage and all these things, you need stability, plain and simple. So again, without that support system, without that stability, if you try to force the issue and make that relationship happen right now, which many have done, you can get to a point where it creates resentment. It creates a level of frustration that now turns into negativity. Because I want you to understand something. Just because they're the right person, right guy, they're still human. You're still human. There is no perfect scenario. There is no, well, they'll always get it right and you'll always get it right. No, there will be mistakes. And if you don't minimize or do things to lower the chances of things going left, then please understand it's going to be tough to not only stop it from going left, but to be able to get back on the right track. All right. So that lack of stability is another cause of it could be the right guy, but it's not the time yet. And let me say this, because I know some of you are thinking, okay, there's a lot of situations where maybe it's the woman who's stable and the man who isn't. And you as a woman may say, well, if he loves me and I'm telling him I love him, why would this be the wrong time? Listen, this man needs to be able to feel confident and secure in the relationship, and stability will provide that for him. I would argue that when a man's in love with you and there's that connection there, remember what I said earlier, when you're insecure and you're with the person that you have a connection with, it can bring more out. You have a higher standard for yourself when you're dealing with someone you're truly into, because you want to pour into them. See, understand something. The people who don't really love you want to take from you. So whatever they're lacking doesn't bother them, because they're not here to be better for you. They're here to get from you what they can. All right. But the person who genuinely loves it with, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. The person who is genuinely in love with you wants to pour into you, wants to give, wants to provide, wants to add to your life. So now when they are lacking, they will be more conscious of it. They will be more concerned with it. It will cause them to be more hesitant to move forward, even if you're saying, but no, everything is good. And listen, some may say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna suck it up and I'm gonna move forward. But I would argue it's very risky business. Has it worked for some people? Yes. But has it derailed some individuals who were good for each other? Yes. Because let me also say this. As we go through this video, understand that love and connection is not relationship, committed romantic relationship. The requirements for the two are different. You can love and be connected to someone, but still lack the things necessary to build a healthy, successful, committed romantic relationship. And I have to add the words committed and romantic, because yes, if we want to be friends, that's different. But if we're trying to be in a committed romantic relationship, the stakes are higher. The standards are higher. And so we have to be mindful of that. And when we're not, and we move too fast, we can derail things that could have been something special. And it still has a chance to be, but we'll get to that a little bit later in the video. All right, now another common issue that you can also pick up from the story is distance. All right. Distance has played a role in a lot of people's scenarios where it was right person or right guy, wrong time. All right. It's simple. Living in different cities, sometimes different countries. All right. Creates a barrier that can make it very difficult. And let me give a scenario, because this is I've seen it happen a lot. And I just feel like I have to talk about it. So you'll have two people. Let's just say they live states away from each other. All right. Maybe one's in LA and one's in Miami. I'm just picking two random cities that I know of. And they are truly into each other. They feel this connection there. It's all there. Right. And they try to make this long distance relationship work. However, let's also throw in that maybe at this moment, they don't have the means to constantly fly to each other or fly one out to see each other. So this is a long distance relationship that has minimal face-to-face contact. All right. But they want to hold on because they feel that connection. They may have met when they were in each other's cities, but they had to go home. And people will, again, in fear of losing this person, will push this relationship to happen. But they're not being honest with themselves about being able to handle that kind of distance. And so now you may have a scenario, because remember what I said, just because there's love and connection does not mean there's perfection. And one individual or the other, or both, I've seen both, will have a vulnerable moment and will step outside of the relationship. Now, I know some of you are going to say, listen, if you love them, there's no way they would do something like that. They are human. We really got to get out of this idea that people are flawed once there's love involved. People love God and still betray God or sin on God all the time. All right. It doesn't mean they don't love God. It's a human flaw that we carry that sometimes, yes, things can get the best of people. And I'm going to give an example. And I'm going to give an example even with the woman, because I know some of y'all are thinking it's just the man doing it, right? No. I got stories for days, and all right. And sometimes in the story I'm thinking about right now, they were at a distance. The woman was starting to have, it was starting to be rough on her. She was having a vulnerable moment. And remember what I said earlier, unhealthy guidance, unhealthy perspectives being poured into her. You had a couple of her friends saying, girl, you need to live your life. You're young anyway. Come out, party with us. Don't worry about it. It's just for one night. It's no big deal. All right, so she figures, you know what, rather than staying home and just dwelling in frustration and sorrow, let me go out with my girls. She goes out with her girls. She has a little two, 3, 4 drinks. I don't know how many drinks it was, I can't remember. But she had a little too many, all right? She ended up seeing a guy that she used to date, all right? And this is a guy that she used to date, and there was a lot of, sexual chemistry when they dated, but she knows, it didn't work out. But again, she's vulnerable, she's drunk, all right? And she's now running to a guy she's familiar with, because familiarity can make it easier for people to kind of slide into a situation. You start adding all that up. I think you know where I'm going with this. She ended up making a mistake. She ended up sleeping with the guy, all right? Was this because she did not love the other man? And I'm not trying to make excuses for cheating, so please don't get this, take this the wrong way. But I'm trying to explain how, again, you can be dealing with the right person, but due to circumstances, it can create all kinds of problems when we try to force things that it isn't time for yet. In this scenario, the guy, her boyfriend, in LA finds out. Of course, he's devastated. It destroys everything. Again, had she or had both of them been honest about what they can and cannot handle, they would have been able to avoid things like this. But because a lot of us, when we experience that love, we want to latch on as quickly as possible. We overlook the obstacles that are telling us it is not time yet. But let's continue. So another big issue, huge issue, possibly the most common of all the issues that create this right guy, wrong time, is lack of healing. Now, using the example I just gave you about the woman who long distance sleeps with the guy, you could argue that, again, because she operated out of a place of hurt in that moment that led to the vulnerability, led to the drinking, led to all that, it went down the wrong path. But I would also add that this lack of healing, there's a lot of people, men and women, who have met the person that, again, they have a connection with, they are in love with, they know they want to be with this person. But because of the trauma they have experienced in the past, because of the hurt and disappointment they have not let go of, the vulnerability that meeting that person that you have a connection with puts you in becomes scary as hell. It becomes overwhelming. I've even heard a lot of women use the term, I feel like I'm losing myself. And what's really happening is, because you would say, well, how is it you're with the person you have a connection with and you're losing yourself? Here's what they're really saying, at least the ones I have talked to. What they're saying is, I'm losing that protective shell I was able to hide behind all these years. That now this man that does something to me that no other man does is pulling me out of. I'm no longer to stay in this person I tried to be to navigate through life. And now he's actually pulling the real you out. And again, that becomes scary. And now you become more in your head about what he's doing, not doing. For someone who's tried to quote unquote protect themselves, this feels like too much. And so I've seen, and I'm using a woman as an example because I really want because I know mainly women are watching this, I need you to hear that because that might be you. Or it might be a position you find yourself in. But let me make clear, this happens to men too. There are men that due to their lack of healing, they're not ready. They're scared. It becomes overwhelming, which let me add, this is why you see, or at least I know I see it, so many people end up with the wrong individual. Because what you don't understand is the wrong individual actually feels safer to someone like this. Because there they can have more emotional control. There they can stay behind that wall they built up. All right. They can continue to portray the person they've been trying to portray. They're not feeling as vulnerable. All right. So it feels easier with the wrong person. With the right person, it just feels too much. And so this lack of healing has derailed a lot of people. Now, again, the fact that they have not healed yet, the fact that they are scared does not say they aren't actually best for you, that they aren't actually right for you. It just is a matter of the human experience that unfortunately, when we do not address our past issues, we set the stage for something like this. And because the majority of people, I would argue, have not properly addressed and healed from their past issues, you see an overwhelming amount of individuals who are not with the right person, who are not where they truly belong in regards to relationships. So it is, again, arguably to me, the most common occurrence of what creates this right person, wrong time. Now, here's another one. And now I'm going to shift a little bit more into a spiritual aspect here. All right. Because I think it's important. I think a lot of you are believers or spiritual, so this is going to resonate with many. Another common occurrence of why it's right person, wrong time, or again, more specifically, right guy, wrong time, is there's still a need for spiritual growth. So now this is more specific to those whose mindset is, I'm trying to receive God's best, or I'm trying to let God guide me. You know, even if you're not perfect in doing it, that's where your heart is. So if you're trying to receive what God has for you, well, then God is not trying to put you in a relationship before you have grown enough spiritually to handle that relationship. Because not what you will have to deal with, the obstacles you will have to overcome are not just what you see in the physical, but there are going to be things that are happening in the spiritual. It will also be a matter of, because this is a very common thing that happens, is when we have not spiritually grown enough, we have a tendency to get in relationships and make our partner our God. We fall, especially when we're talking about someone that you feel this connection with, you're so in love with, you become so enamored, I hate to use this word, but sometimes so obsessed, all right? So consumed, that's the better word. So consumed by this person, by this relationship, you don't even realize. It may not be a conscious thing you did. In most cases, it's not. But you essentially end up putting them on a higher pedestal than God. That is not what God's going to want if you want him to be the author of this relationship, the one who helps you put it together, the one who helps you achieve success. So, as well as, let me say this, even though this video is speaking to women, let's say for a man, his spiritual growth may be in a way that he can actually lead in the relationship. All right. Your spiritual growth, some of y'all may not like this, but this is hitting my spirit really hard right now. Your spiritual growth may be in your ability to embrace his lead in that relationship. Now, before any of you guys get a little triggered by that, let me make clear. If you're trusting God to be able to guide you to the man who is best for you, then you've got to be able to trust him that he will only lead you to the man who can lead you in a relationship with love. Not lead you and make you a second-class citizen, not be your dictator, but be your partner who leads in love and who protects and provides and do all the things that God has called him to do. All right? But you have to be willing to embrace that. I've met a lot of spiritual women who they're asking for this man, but they cannot really accept a man being the lead. And let me be more specific. I remember, this is a true story. I have a friend And I once told her, I said, I feel God is telling me to let you know that if you want this guy, you're going to have to essentially let him drive the car. Like she's so used to running things and doing things on her own. And listen, that's awesome and great. But the man that God's going to give you, or God's going to lead you to, or lead y'all to together, whatever, you got to let him. Are you prepared to sit in the passenger seat? I used to say back seat. It's not the right way to put it. In the passenger seat. You're still in the front with the man. You're next to him, but you're in the passenger seat. All right. She came back to me weeks later and she said, I thought about it. And the answer is no. And the answer is no, because I've never seen a man lead a woman in a healthy way. I've only seen men either take advantage or seen women who had to run the men. That showed you that there was a part. So that goes back to healing and maturity and growth that needed to occur. So even though in her mind, she was ready, all right? And if she meets this guy, I'm what I need to be. The reality was there was still some things that needed to be worked on. And again, the growth can be on the woman's side, the man's side. And honestly, let me say this, because a lot of times when there's this right guy, wrong time, the perception, at least from the women who I have spoken to, have been like, he's the one that's not ready. It's on him. I'm good. And I will make the argument, if it's not time, then both of you have things that need to be worked on. I have never seen a situation where it wasn't time and it was really only on one person to have to become something better. There is something you have yet to prepare for. There is something yet you have yet to achieve. There is something yet that you have learned that's going to be necessary for success in that future relationship. So we've got to be willing to embrace that there's always room for improvement. But let's continue. Now, before I continue, let me just mention real quick, people are always asking me about coaching and answering their personal questions. And listen, if I could, I really would. It's just very overwhelming. It's so many. It's hard to get to everybody, which is why I created my membership program. All right. This is a program that not only will you be able to get your questions answered, there are modules, a course in there on, you're learning femininity, hearing God more clearly, finding your purpose, understanding men better, meeting more quality men, tons of other things, a like-minded community, of women. It's an amazing program that has helped thousands of women so far. Take advantage, join today, go to receivingmyblessings.com or click the link in the description or in the comments section. As I continue with this video, I have a lot more that needs to be unpacked. So now I'm realizing there's gonna have to be a part 2 because I don't want to stretch the video out too long or longer than I usually do them. They're already long as they are, all right? So just understand, I'll probably do a follow-up to break down some of the reasons why God would allow this, or why would this happen in your life. But let's get to a big question that I want to answer right now. And that is the question of, okay, so if we accept this idea of right person, wrong time, and let me reiterate real quick that, again, you've got to understand that, look at it as like if your parent was baking you a cake, okay? But you're real hungry and you want to eat right now. The cake ain't ready yet. And you go rush and you eat the cake before it's properly baked. And now you get a stomach ache, all right? One, you ruined the experience with the cake. Two, you may not want to eat cake again after that bad experience, all right? And it doesn't mean a great cake wasn't coming. It just was not time to indulge in that yet. And so when we jump forward into these relationships before it is time, we don't understand how much damage can be done. I've told a lot of different men let me put it like this. I've met men where they've met this woman, they feel like this is the one. But let's say in this one example, he felt like he wasn't ready because he wasn't expecting this. Remember when I said in the beginning, love can come at the least expected time. So he was at a point in his life where he was kind of having his fun. He was doing his thing. He had this whole plan of, all right, I'm going to finish college. And then once I finish college, I'm going to settle down. This woman comes before then. He's like, okay, I'm kind of conflicted. What should I do? You know, I kind of feel like I'm not completely ready to be settled down and committed, but I do not want to lose this woman who I believe is the one. And I would tell him like, listen, man, it's better to let her go now and be honest about why, rather than to hold on to her when you're not ready, end up making a mistake, doing something you're not supposed to do, hurting this woman badly, and now either damaging the relationship to where even if y'all stay together, things will be a lot harder and won't be what they could be. Or if you guys were to break up, you would have a harder time later making things work in the future, because now she has to remember how you betrayed her and violated her. This is the mistake that people make when they jump ahead. And listen, even when it's the right time, can mistakes be made? Yes. But again, it's about lowering the chances of it when we understand the circumstances are not favorable right now to establishing a healthy relationship. And please understand, it's easier to recover from mistakes and missteps when we already have a foundation of a healthy relationship. But when we start off with issues, it's way harder. So that's why it's like, listen, yes, mistakes can happen in any relationship, but at least they started off good. It's easier to come back from that. But anyways, the big question that gets asked is, all right, if we accept this, then should we wait for this person? All right? Should we stick around? And honestly, no. I was trying to find a different way to say it, but no. No, you shouldn't. And let me explain. When I say no, you shouldn't, it is not to say that things cannot work out later on in the future. I have tons of stories of people who experienced right person, wrong time. Let's say they met 10 years ago, things were off, they weren't mature, they had issues, whatever. They broke apart. 10 years later, they come back together, and now it's amazing. All right? It can work. The problem that most people have is, what do they do in the meantime that can mess things up or make things harder? I always say when there's a connection with people, it almost always, if not always, comes back around at some point. The problem is if you have this experience, because this is what happens a lot and it's coming in my mind right now. You have this experience. Let's say you're a woman, you experience this, it doesn't work. Now you're devastated and hurt. So now your mindset is, remember I said earlier, it becomes easier to be with the wrong person than the right person when you have been hurt and damaged. So now the mindset is, all right, I don't want to be vulnerable like this again. Let me find a guy who's just good enough to be with. Even though your heart is truly still with that guy. All right? The original guy. That woman goes on to marry someone else, have kids. But the whole time in that marriage, she does not feel it for her husband like she did for that guy. And man, I know there might be some people watching this and that's hitting you in the gut. And I'm sorry if, that's pulling some things out of y'all, but I have to be honest. You know what I'm saying? That woman is not feeling towards her husband what she felt for this guy. There is no connection with her husband. Then at some point, she crosses paths with the old love. And now her life is like upside down. She don't know what to do. Now, if she had not entered into another relationship with a man she was not truly in love with, the path would be clear for her to possibly rekindle things with her old love and actually make it happen now that the time could be right. But because she's added these extra factors, it makes it more difficult. And of course, this happens on both sides. The man does the same. I know of a situation where the man, the woman, due to her being scared, rejected the man. He literally went and married someone else. They came back together. And he said, I only married her because, you didn't want to take me. You didn't want me. And I just felt like, okay, let me go be with somebody. It sounds sad, and it is sad, and it's unfortunate, but it happens a lot more than people realize. So when we go back to the question of should you wait, it's not a matter of, no, you should not wait. You should live your life. But you should be aware and conscious of the fact that here's my rule. I don't believe in getting with anyone if they have not surpassed whoever I previously had the strongest feelings for. All right, let me repeat that. I do not believe in being with anyone unless they have surpassed who I've had the strongest feelings for previously. So if you meet someone new and you honestly feel like your feelings are stronger for them, the connection is stronger, all that stuff, then hey, you move forward and you do that. But a lot of people, that's not what they do. They get with individuals that it's not that strong. It's not nearly as strong. And they just simply try to make it work. And then at some point, you will always feel this void in that relationship. It becomes a matter of, Spirit hit me again. It becomes a matter of now trying to fill your life with distractions to deal with it. Bury yourself in your kids. Bury yourself in work. Bury yourself in church. Finding ways to not have to face the fact that the person you're with, it's just not there with. It's never been there with. But you were hoping you can make it work. You were hoping it would somehow come about. You were hoping it would not be an issue. But unfortunately it is. But I don't want to, like I said, I know some of this is hitting a lot of people hard. Let's get back to the main topic. Right guy, wrong time. Again, there is more to unpack here. I will have a part 2. And just understand, listen, if you have dealt with this or are dealing with this, when it comes to how to handle it, this is where I want you to pray. And this is where I want you to have the mindset of, listen, it's not about waiting for that person. It's about preparing to receive what's best for you. So let the focus be on how can I become better? How can I become ready? And therefore ready if it's them that's supposed to come back, you'll be ready for that. Or if it's something bigger and better, you'll be ready for that. But unfortunately, when we dwell in the hurt and the disappointment of that situation not working out when we wanted it to, when we dwell in the fact that we pushed that relationship forward at a time that it should not have gone forward, we now hinder our ability to receive what is best for us. We hinder our ability to grow. Do not dwell in it. Learn from it, become better, and trust that God's blessings for you are going to come. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. Marriage is a magnifier. It's either going to magnify the good or it's going to magnify the misery. But it itself will not correct the issues that already exist in a relationship. And boy, are there some issues people are facing